Okay, so in the last lecture, mini lecture, I basically tried to show you how when you have exports, you actually have more total surplus as a result of having trade. Okay, so now what we're going to try and look at is the reverse in terms of when we actually have imports instead. Okay, so goods actually coming in with regard to this market. So again, remember our baseline here is in terms of no trade, okay, closed market, okay, for this particular good. Okay, so if there are imports, it must be what? Okay, it must be in terms of then domestic supply and domestic demand. And in order for the country to have to want more goods from abroad, the domestic demand in this case is going to be the one that's greater. All right, and so in order for that to be the case, what can we say about the world price as opposed to the domestic equilibrium? Well, in this case, it must mean that the world price is actually less than the domestic equilibrium piece of one. Okay, so what does the market actually look like in this case? Okay, how do we find the total surplus? Okay, so remember for the exports, you saw that it was basically the red that grew a lot and the green kind of shrunk a little bit. So it was the suppliers that actually did better from exports. Okay, so what about for imports? Okay, who tends to gain? Okay, so again, we have our domestic equilibrium price, but now the world price is somewhere down here. Again, not necessarily specifically at this point, but somewhere below the domestic equilibrium. Okay, so where is then consumer and producer surplus? Okay, so notice now, again, consumer surplus is the area below the demand, but above the price. Okay, in this case, the price is the world price. So consumer surplus then is this entire triangle here. So this is our consumer surplus. And then in terms of producer surplus, remember it's below the price but above the supply curve. Okay, so that is this area here. Okay. So once again, what we can do is try to compare the graph that we have here. Remember, this is supposed to represent trade, except in this case for imports, but compare this graph with this one. And so what do we notice in terms of a comparison in terms of total surplus? We notice that in terms of it, it's actually bigger, and by how much when we have trade? It's bigger by this amount. Okay, we notice that the consumers are the ones that are doing better. Producers know, but the consumers are doing better, and is doing so much better that overall, the net benefit to society has grown. Okay, so again, as before, when there's trade, total surplus is higher.